Today's video is supported by Articulate. They develop and distribute the leading industry software for instructional designers, and the project that I'm going to share today was built entirely using Articulate Storyline. Back in October, I attended a conference in my industry. I was really nervous because I submitted a proposal and I got accepted to share my project in a competition. The conference is called DevLearn, and it's like the biggest conference for folks in my industry. So when I got to the conference in Vegas, I started networking, chatting with folks who were there, and a lot of the people in attendance were sharing AI products and were just like talking up AI, which was a little bit anxiety inducing because I showed up with a project all about the ethical implications of artificial intelligence, particularly pertaining to algorithmic warfare, the impacts of AI on medical triage and resource allocation, and surveillance. So here I am at this big academic conference with a bunch of people who love AI, about to present on why AI is dystopian. However, to my surprise, I later found myself on stage grabbing an award because I won one of the categories. It was an incredible experience, and it was such a solid reminder as to why it's so important to develop passion projects and why you should stand behind the things that you create. Shortly after the conference, I received a message from the folks at Articulate. They asked me if I would put together a little video talking about how I developed my project, why, some of the ins of how it works, some of the mechanics. So that's what we're doing today. Let's jump into it. My project is called the Agency Algorithm, and it's a multi-room interactive learning experience centered around philosophical inquiry. And I really wanted to give the end user an opportunity to just explore and exercise their autonomy in very complicated situations that mirror real life scenarios and consequences of using AI. I think a lot of traditional online learning experiences are super boring, if I'm being honest. There's not a lot of artistry infused in some of the corporate trainings that we have all been subjected to. I felt it was really important to find a way to push the boundaries of what an online training, an online learning experience could look and feel like. I would say that the concept initially was really clear to me. I knew that I wanted to bridge philosophy and thought experiments and instructional design. It was important to me to find interesting visuals and these kind of abstract representations of the concepts I was trying to convey, because I thought it would add an air of intrigue and mystery and curiosity to the entire experience. When I first started working on this project, I had the idea that I was going to hand draw all of the environments, all of the graphics, and I quickly realized that that just was not feasible given the timeline. I do have some sketches and some really sloppy drawings of my initial idea and vision for this project. While I do think it would have been super interesting to highlight this tension between human and technology by having hand drawings, I ultimately landed on using these three-dimensional renderings instead. Let me stop talking about it and show you. The hallway is essentially the central hub of this whole experience. So the user can choose any of these three rooms, if you will, and each of these rooms kind of symbolizes a different scenario. The triage garden, for example, is a scenario regarding medical triage. The next room is the mask archive, which is all about surveillance. And then lastly, the armory is all about algorithmic warfare. We'll just start out in the triage garden. There's a little overview here, and I just built this layer so that the learner can decide if this is the room that they want to go interact with. The user is kind of put in the position of a caregiver, and it's their role to decide which of these three plants to allocate resources to. Each of these plants is meant to represent a different type of person, maybe a different age group or a different degree of health. In a real medical facility, you might have a very sick elderly patient at the same time as having a newborn baby who's in critical condition. They might require the same resources. So how do we make decisions about who to allocate to? AI is being used and algorithms are being used, so it poses a lot of moral questions. When the learner clicks on each of these different plant profiles, a layer populates with some context about their condition, the risk to the ecosystem, and then just an overarching question about the decision. Once the learner selects all three different plant profiles, a button populates allowing them to make a decision. I've used hover states to develop these little cheat cards, and they just remind the learner of each key critical question about the different plant profiles. Based on the option that the user selects, something will happen. This part of the project was a piece that I really enjoyed building. I do want to show you how some of these triggers and variables work together. So essentially the learner will click on each of these different orbs here, and they'll get a little bit of information about particular risks of defaulting to AI and high stakes decision making like medical triage. So for example, we have issues of trust, we have issues regarding patient privacy, challenges when it comes to accountability, because if a life and death decision is made and AI or an algorithm is responsible, who is culpable? We have equity, so discussion around how AI triage care may be allocated based on things like age, gender, and lastly, bias. Once the user clicks through all of these different orbs and they read through all these different risks, all of these key terms they just learned, all these key risks populate here. The next room is called the Mask Archive, and this is my favorite part of the project because I think it's a topic that I'm really interested in, which is AI and algorithmic surveillance. In the Mask Archive, the first thing that the learner has to do is hover over this subject. I have some triggers and variables, and after they've hovered over the mask for long enough, it proceeds to this very creepy slide where we have 3 masks. This scenario consists of 3 different subjects that need to be reviewed. They were flagged by this algorithm, this system, and it's your responsibility to do some investigating. When we hover over each, you'll see the hover states reveal specific criteria as to why they've been flagged. So we're just gonna go with this social engagement deficit, for example. Here, we're gonna click through all of these different data streams to learn more about this particular individual. Up here, we're going to learn a little bit about their geolocation history. So we learn a little bit about their outdoor activity, their isolation index. We can see their search history. I wanted to make it clear that this individual is obviously struggling, feeling isolated, and also falling victim to things like AI companions. We can also look at their biometric data, and their wearable is indicating a decrease in their physical activity and an increase in screen time. After the user clicks through all these different data streams, you'll see this intervention button will populate. There's like a super secret intervention that you can push out to the user to help them recover from their isolation and their challenge. I'm not going to tell you what happens because it's kind of dark. One of the key elements of this part of the agency algorithm is that I intended to really create the experience of cognitive dissonance. I feel like a lot of online learning experiences give the answers away super easily. And I get it because compliance courses and like those sorts of things just have a different objective, right? But in this case, I wanted them to walk away with a bit of discomfort. And I think by manufacturing cognitive dissonance, it really does stick with the user. They maybe feel conflict. And I think that that's really important when we're discussing moral dilemmas and the ethical implications of technology on humankind. Here we have a similar interactive piece where like the learner can go through and learn about all these different areas where surveillance kind of comes up in unexpected ways. So you kind of get the gist here. And then I'd like to show you the final room, which is the Armory. I had a vision for this room that I was not quite able to bring to life, but ironically, people who engaged with the project at the conference liked this room the most. And I don't know if it's because it's really straightforward, but I think people just really resonated with the content because it's kind of intense and I don't know, it's like a real area where AI could become really problematic. You equip yourself with this headset, and then we move into a little bit of context about the scenario. So basically, you put on this headset and it's got some AI technology to assist with target recognition, battlefield translation, and drone swarm coordination. Each of these little icons reveals some information. This is a learning experience, so we have to kind of arm our users with a little bit of insight. I largely modeled the idea of this AI headset. It's called Hawk Vision. I modeled this largely after Eagle Eye, which is a real military tool technology that's being used right now. When the learner reads about all of these different areas where this tool can enhance their time out on the battlefield, they're able to deploy. And now they're confronted with this scenario. Long story short, civilian presence can't be ruled out, and there's only a 67% likelihood that this is in fact your target. So the user has to make a decision. Obviously, based on which different option the user chooses, there will be a different outcome to the scenario. And I built this using branching logic. So essentially, if the user clicks X, it will lead them to Y. And then I also have some of these learner prompts here where I ask them questions about their choices. I learned a lot along the way with this project, and it was a really great way to get some exposure to trying new things in Storyline. I used a lot of multi-state objects, so you can see there are hover states on everything interactive. Some of them reveal little hints and things like that throughout the course. And I also used cue points at times to trigger things like glowing orbs and objects, just to add a little bit of intrigue to the visual elements. AI is super prevalent in the learning space right now, and frankly, I'm just not that into it. So I felt like this project was a significant opportunity to kind of highlight why we need human beings to resolve human problems rather than defaulting and offloading decision-making to AI. Especially when we're developing courses, I think AI might have its place in helping with things like localization and translation, but for me, it's really important that we solve human problems with human-driven solutions. There are so many creative developers out there who are working in this field, and I think they're doing incredible work. But all too often, I feel that our skill set is contained by this need to rapidly build and develop corporate training. So there's something really fun about being able to develop a passion project just to explore and kind of push the boundaries and see what you're capable of making. One of the things that I did upon completing the project was I created a Google form and sent it out to a group of beta testers. This was super crucial because in order to have an effective experience, you should get a group of users to try it, test it, see if they can break it, see if there are things that just aren't making sense or working. I got a ton of really great feedback, and in fact, some of you actually provided me with feedback. So if you were one of the beta testers for this project, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I want to leave you with just one little insight, and that is, in a lot of areas of our lives as creatives, people won't have the language or the insight or the ability to conceptualize things that we can. If you're a creative person, no matter what industry or field you work in professionally, apply your creative lens. Don't be afraid to try new things and go against the grain. I showed up in a very professional environment, and I brought something that went against the grain and opposed just about everyone else who was there. And yet people walked away feeling like they got something from the experience, feeling like they got something of value from engaging with this project. All right, I'm gonna go now.